All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So I'm going to cover three on this one. We're going to look at plug, as you see right here. We will take a look at APLD one more time. We did that not that long ago, actually. And then I want to take a look at Robinhood. Hood is the ticker right here. All right, so hey, I will tell you, I have been eyeing plug for a bit, actually, and I went into the Discord, I searched for it, and you can see the convos really start, I guess they start before that, right? But it was around the 28th that really caught my eye, and there's just been a good amount of chatter, and you can see I made a video the day after that, right? But plug has been under all the moving averages and has been under the 8 moving average for such a long time, right? You can see what happens. You go down, you go horizontal, and you either break up or you fall down like it did right there, right? And again, we did the same down. We're now starting to come horizontal. It's basically this line right here. And hey, we at least see the early signs of the breakup, but it's going to be all about that 50 moving average, right? And if I had to guess, plug must confirm no, but yeah, it was all about the 50 moving average is the answer, right? So yeah, big chart that's definitely worth eyeing, because again, you break the 50, you're going to go to the 100, nothing but red to green all the way there, right? With that 117 that I have drawn right there, right? So I think this is definitely well worth keeping an eye on. All right, APLD, again, I for sure did not see this. This was very much a Discord thank you. This is going really well. And I mentioned this on the last video. I use Webull. It's an app. The bull is actually the ticker, right? We've covered that before on the videos. I use Webull, and Webull makes it look like this thing is in all-time highs, this thing being APLD. When I look at this system, it actually tells me it's not. We ended up drawing a line that, hey, let's be honest, was pretty good today, right? So I think now leaning to this system being right, because Webull literally has this 2022, 2021 range down here, kind of makes it look like that, and that's why it's breaking all-time highs as opposed to this right here, right? So it really is just where these lines came from, because I'm telling you, I'm looking at Webull right now as I'm saying all these words, and there would have been no line for me to draw on that chart, on that system, because it doesn't have anything there, right? So really not too sure what happened between that. I'm glad that these lines are good here. And again, this was a real big connection with a real big dollar amount, right? So I'll talk about that $7 billion deal shortly after this, okay? And then last one is Hood. Again, gotta give love where the credit is, right? Hood was actually discussed a couple days ago. Let's see if I can find it. No, before this one. Boom. This is me giving the credit. I don't know where it was, but Hood, okay? Hood came from here. What I really like, and really I got to start deleting a lot of lines, but you can see it, right? Here, somewhere around here, is the last real all-time highs point. Once we gapped up and it went, I mean, it just makes a lot of sense that we're doing some real good things right now, right? So I'm actually going to delete all the lines, and let's just redraw everything. Let's just delete everything. We don't need anything there. It's too low. So Hood is definitely one I really like. I understand that it's already so high. I understand that the RSI is in the basically 80 range, right? But that's a real good weekly. That's still really low. That's a nice MACD. Volume's actually been there. And hey, you know, I'm actually really liking the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. So, oh, and look, it's actually taken off a little bit after hours. I like that. Again, not crazy, but this is what all-time highs does. It's a beautiful thing, you know what I mean? And really with Hood, you're getting a little bit of the crypto love now that Bitcoin's pushing what, 100, 107, 106, something like that, right? And 106,000 obviously. And really this is also an established bank, right? Like there's also a lot of like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, you know, City Chase in this ticker as well, right? So it's a nice little bit of safe bank and new crypto world, right? So yeah, there's so much to like on Hood, most of it actually being that gap up from the all-time high candle that happened right there on the 3rd. So really, I'm liking all three of these tickers is really the story. And one more time, let me just at least flash it in the opening thoughts. NASDAQ, look, it's been so choppy. It's been such a weird up and down. But at least for the entirety of the last 2 weeks, it's been going up and down over the moving averages instead of under, right? It was going up and down, up and down, up and down under not that long ago, and it was horrible, right? So I don't like choppy, you know that, but better to be over moving averages than under, right? When we look at the S&P 500, exact same story, right? Up and down, up and down, up and down. At least we've been basically over the 8 moving average the entire time, except for that little outlier right there, right? So I'm still at least relatively happy with the indices. They could be better, right? But hopefully with Dow Jones now kind of starting to maybe escape and take off as well, maybe we'll see a little bit better harmony. That really, again, would do very well for all three of these. Ooh, excuse me, a little ticker, a little hiccup. All three of these tickers right here. So before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So I didn't make up this phrase. I don't know who did, so I don't know who to give credit for. But there's I don't know if it's a joke or it's a saying, but the reason that they're called stocks is because, like the lion in the jungle, we're here stalking our prey, right? And I have been stalking Plug for a bit now. All right, and I talked about it in the opening thoughts. This is a very common technical setup. All right, look, you never want anything under the 8 and the 20 moving average. These two moving averages, the bad things happen. You basically just go down for a while. All right, after the while, you will horizontal. Okay, and when you horizontal, generally speaking, you're gonna take off pretty nicely, or unfortunately, you're gonna keep falling, right? And again, pretty nicely, pretty badly in that case, I guess, right? But we were down, we were horizontal, we went down instead of up, okay? After the weeks and weeks and weeks of down, we've now found ourselves at a new horizontal, and it's basically this line that I drew here, right? All of a sudden, it doesn't look like we're coming down. All of a sudden it looks like we're trying to go up. And I'm using the word try because I can't stress enough, these are really hard lines, all right? There's no guarantee that this thing's gonna break the 50 MA. I know we're over it today, and believe me, that has me excited, but we're never here for a single candle. We need more, we need Monday to do the job, all right? But if Monday continues up, all right, there is nothing but red that might take us very quickly to about $1.40, give or take. If that $1.40 breaks, really, I can see this 170 kind of being the place. Obviously, the 200 moving average is sitting here around 180. I'm going to give this, and I'll probably draw it. No, I'm not going to draw it because we have the 200 moving average there. But that one's this horizontal, right? It's either somewhere right there, maybe right there, in that little range, right? But there is a lot to like, and it all starts with confirming the break of the 50 moving average. All right. We have not been over the 50 moving average since basically January of this year. The beginning of the year, that was basically the last day. And then from there, we quickly lose it and never see it again. Right. So, and really, even before that, I get interesting. Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm just gonna stick with this. So yeah, look, I think that's really the moral of the story. Now, here's where it gets a little tight. So again, I don't know the math behind these lines, right? What I'm just kind of doing is guessing the slope. It looks like that's probably gonna be around 94 cents, and then it looks like that's probably gonna be around 93 cents, right? So in that 93, 94 like meeting point where the red line and the green line, the 50 moving average and the 8 move, where that's the point that's going to dictate what happens. We either need to take off and go towards that dollar, really the safest number is going to be a dollar flat. That'll at least put us into this doji right here. I don't like using the red candles. There's not much you can use on the red candles. Yeah, again, I think $1 is probably the safe line. Really, in so many ways, if you just go a penny up, if you can call it maybe even 98 cents, oh, it should take off. If you lose that 93 point, you're probably going to go down to 84, 83, and that's actually more than a 10% drop right there, right? So we are coming to the make or break point, and really it seems like it's going to happen on Monday, right? Maybe we'll get a doji there and it'll confirm on Tuesday, but this is it. This is where we decide if we're going to mimic last time and fall down, or we're going to do the opposite and hopefully go on up. And again, I like the spacing. I like the channel between the 50 and the 100. Obviously, I also like the channel between the 100 and the 200, right? So there's a lot of nice little things happening here. When we look at the weekly, it's kind of the same story, right? Beginning of the year, we lose the 8 and the 20. We've never been over the 8. All of a sudden, we've actually been over the 8 the last 2 weeks. And I don't know if this is good enough to call it a confirmation. Obviously, it's at least back-to-back candles, which is in general what I call confirmation, right? But when you've been under it for basically the entirety of the year, I think I want just a little bit more, right? And again, I think if Monday can give us a nicer signal, this thing's even saying, look, I don't think it's 117. I think it's this 130. I don't know if I want to raise this 117. That's what I was thinking about doing. Where's the one? Because that's right here. All right. You know what? I'll take it to you. I'll take it there. Because look, again, I don't know the math, but if I had to guess, that's probably going to come down a little bit and maybe end up being around there. So I think these are my targets. You break $1, it'll gain about 25% up to there. From there, we're basically going to test the 100 moving average around $1.40, and then, a lot of red, 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 and green, green, green behind that. For now, don't think higher than 140, because again, even the weekly is kind of saying around 130 might be the limit. All right, so plug. If anything, that's a real nice percentage if it does that stuff, right, with the 10% on the downside. All right, I think we talked about the news. I think it was something about financing. In new financing, it was. Let me see if there was like a news article. It was financing. No, we don't have the link to anything. But yeah, again, money is an important thing, right? And if the financing terms were good, hey, market tends to like that, right? End of the day, 50 moving average. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's come into APLD. So far, so good with this ticker right here, right? So what got our eye was a $7 billion. Let me see if we have the 7 billion. I think there was an article. A $7 billion contract with CoreWeave. There was no article. No, sorry about that. But again, the initial comment came from the Discord group right on the second, and it's been a nice continuation since. What I said on the last video, and it still holds, look, we cannot go below 1180. Sorry, 1190. As long as this holds 1190, this is very much bullish. Look, I love the fact that we even made the attempt at that line right there, right? Let me just zoom out so you can see it. I'm really happy that we actually did try that. That's a really high RSI. And to me, and I think I said it in the Discord a couple days ago, I cared less about the next couple days, which was basically yesterday and today, and what I was more interested in was the next week's candle. Okay, because we tried to get over all the moving averages, we couldn't. We then very much gap up and run. That's a nice MACD. That's a nice RSI. That's clearly crazy big volume. All right, and I don't know if we're gonna go from 100 million to 1 billion all the way back down to like 200 million, or if we're gonna do what we did on the daily, right? We were down here, we did a crazy 10x almost number up here, and then hey, we actually hold, right? We never surpass it. That would have been really nice, but hey, we didn't pump and dump, we pump and held. What's going to happen on the weekly chart? Are we going to pump and hold, or are we going to pump and dump, right? This again, this says 1110. Let's even just call it flat 11. I think 11 is the safe line on the weekly. So that makes me think if you lose 1180, you're going to quickly fall to 11. That's actually a lot lower than that. Sorry, it's about to right there. I think that actually makes a lot of sense too, because if I had to guess, that's probably going to be the 8 moving average trajectory. That's basically the $11 point right there, right? So don't lose 1180. If you do, you'll come to 11. Yo, horrible things will happen if you lose 11. But again, my goal is to not lose 1170 if you want to know the truth, right? Obviously, I have this $13 line. If you lose 13, you'll basically come to that 12 point, right? What we're really looking for, like I said, is a continuation on up. Sorry, I zoomed too much. Really, just give me a penny more. And I'm liking that it's already starting after hours, right? But if this thing goes a penny higher, let's call it 13.90 on Monday, I think we'll reattempt that right there. A little bit of me feels like this thing needs to cool down a little bit. I wouldn't be too surprised if we actually come down to 13 just so that 85 RSI could come down. But CR CoreWeave, WV, CoreWeave, that's what it is. CoreWeave, which is the stock that we just said it was connected to, has been basically living at a really high RSI without ever doing any crazy cooldowns. You know what I mean? So, and actually you can see it. It goes from this 91 all the way down to 60 whatever while it uptrends on price, right? So CoreWeave did some really crazy things with the RSI. By no means is it guaranteed that this one will, but it's nice that it's connected to that one, right? You know what I mean? So we at least have that 13, 1190, and 11. Those are basically the 1, 2, 3 lines down. And then the 2 lines up are 15, 50, and 18, 19. Sorry, let me just do the third line. And then from there, it's 23, 23. Look at that symmetry. I like it. Cool. APLD, yeah, like I said, I think the daily did the job, even though it was a little hot. I'm glad volume held. Look at that beautiful MACD. Let's see if the weekly will not pump and dump, because that is where sustainability and potentially a little bit of CoreWeave copycat might actually come from. All right, so let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's talk about Hood real quick. And look, I'm here doing my best to stay impartial. I always say they're like random 3, 4, 5 letter tickers. Truth be told, I like Hood a lot. I think Hood is a very, very good ticker. I know a lot of people have like strong emotional opinions about Robinhood as a company. I know for a while it was super, super hated. I don't know if it is now or not, but I like Robinhood, and I mentioned this in the opening thoughts. It's a good combination of safe and risky. And to me, what that means is it's a good combination of safe, meaning well established banking, right? Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citi, Chase, banks never die, right? Obviously, we've had some financial scandals and this and that, but those are nothing more than these crazy outliers and stories, right? These one-off scandals and this and that, right? Like banks are here to basically live forever, right? And for Robinhood to be in that bank world, that's important, and that brings a level of stability because that's what that sector is. On the other hand, Robinhood is a very big crypto place, you know, and whether you agree or not, like by no means is a Coinbase, but it's made itself a loud presence in that world, and it adds a nice level of risk, and with risk comes reward, right? So I really like that balance that the stock has. It's something that I feel like SoFi has always tried to mimic, but to me, that one leans a little bit more on the banking side than it does on the crypto side, as opposed to this one that I think does its best to be a little bit louder on that. Just my opinion, right? Let me know if you agree or disagree with that. From there, look, I deleted all my lines in the beginning of the video, and I think the only line I really need to draw is, I'll be honest, it doesn't look that good on the weekly, but let's just draw it from the weekly. So that was the peak of the weekly, and actually that's a good look. You try right here, you try right here, and then you go, right? So that was actually a pretty nice line to have. The other one I want to draw, let's just zoom in and show it, because this is the one that Coleman saw, and yeah, I think it made sense. So this right here, look, you hear me talk about the IPO resistance a lot. Generally, the IPO resistance is this right here. It's actually where it physically starts, right? The peak of the IPO is a really important line, all right? And you can see I'm doing my, is it to the penny? It's not to the penny, but it's close enough, right? Let's see what that looks like here. That's basically where the gap up went and took off, right? So this thing was over all the moving averages. It was riding the lines up. It got to that IPO peak, and I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense that we're just living in this doji world, right? Like, this thing is hungry to take off. This thing wants to go up into all-time highs and fly. There is no better place for your money than all-time highs, all right? When we look at the weekly chart, I think it echoes a lot of what I just said on APLD. This is a great weekly chart. It is. We get over all the moving averages. We have a string of dojis and then a nice weekly candle right there that actually takes over the resistance I just drew, right? And for the most part, we took over that thing really well, right? That's a nice green over red divergence. That's the same green over red divergence. That's a healthy 66. That's a positive number right there. And where volume was starting to, dwindle a little bit, all of a sudden it's actually been better than the last, month and a half average, right? So I'm really liking what I'm seeing on this weekly. This weekly is making me think really good things. And look, I don't do it a lot, but let's just zoom out and look at the monthly. This isn't a bad monthly either. That's a nice MACD that's trying to diverge a little bit higher, right? It's a little bit of a high RSI on that 80 right there, right? But how many weeks is there in this? We're a fourth of the way. That's one. That's probably two. Yeah, I think we're looking good on the month for volume. I think we're gonna at least get close to what we did last month, excuse me, if not maybe a little bit higher, because we're about a fourth of the way with this month, right? And I would basically say we've taken about a fourth of that, maybe a little bit less, but give or take, right? So, yeah, I like Hood. Right now, at this point, as long as we stay over this 70-30, it's extremely bullish. Truth be told, this can actually drop all the way down to 65, and I would still call it bullish. But really, I don't want to lose this line. I'm actually going to color this and call it out as a golden line. Do I use the one under that? No, it is that one. That's the one we want. That's our golden line right now. You break the golden line, and to me, I expect you to gain 20% after 20% after 20% until, for whatever reason, bad things happen. All right. So, this thing is saying earnings might. Oh no, earnings is still 2 months away. We got long. I like what I'm seeing here on Hood. All right. Let me know your thoughts. And then, sorry. So since I don't have a target, listen. If we break this $70, I'm expecting a 20% gain. That's $14. My next line would be around $84. Is what I would guess on this thing, right? So if we get a good confirmation, because again, all of these are dojis over it, my next line's 84, and then we would use the candles in between to set some resistances. Otherwise, I'm going to say one more time, this can literally fall to like 64.50, right? I said 65 earlier. I would still call it bullish, all right? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so, so much.